In the oldest cultures on Earth, the most important person in the room remembered everything. Not wrote it down, remembered it. One mind could hold the laws, the lineages, the songs, the whole memory of a people we have spent 3,000 years making that person unnecessary. You are what is left of them. There is a kind of person who has always been here. They go by different names in different centuries. The cunning woman, the hermit, the witness, the seer, the exile. The world has tried more than once to be rid of them. The world has never managed it. If you carry one of these patterns, you already know. Today we return to those who carry deep memory in their bodies, the ones every faster, flatter age has tried to leave behind, and never quite has. Begin with the Rigveda. For perhaps 1,000 years before it was written down, it was carried in human memory alone. Not approximately. Exactly. Reciters learned to chant it forwards, backwards, and in interwoven patterns, so that not one syllable could drift across the centuries. A library with no building, a text with no page, held entirely in trained and living minds. This was not unusual, it was the human norm. Before writing was common, memory was the only vessel a culture had. So memory was trained the way an athlete trains a body. The Homeric singers held tens of thousands of lines and composed inside them as they sang. The griots of West Africa carried the genealogies of whole kingdoms in their bodies. To lose such a person was to burn an archive. The clearest case is also the most violent. Julius Caesar wrote that the training of the Druids of Gaul could last 20 years. 20 years learning by heart because they refused to commit their knowledge to writing. They believed that to write it down was to weaken the mind that should hold it. They carried the law, the calendar, the lineages, the sacred memory of their people, and Rome did not leave them alone. Under Tiberius and then Claudius, the Druids were suppressed and hunted to the point of extinction. Not because they raised armies, because they held something an empire could not control. A memory that did not answer to Rome. Here is the part we forget. Even then, in the ancient world, people sensed what was being lost. In Plato's Phaedrus, Socrates tells an old Egyptian story. A god invents writing and brings it proudly to the king. The king is not grateful. He warns that this gift will plant forgetfulness in the soul. People will trust the marks on the outside and stop growing the depth on the inside. They will seem to know much and know little. That warning is more than 2,000 years old. It was the first time someone looked at a new surface technology and felt the depth begin to drain. And still the lineage did not vanish. When the Western world fell into its long disorder after Rome, small communities of monks kept the deep memory alive. They copied by hand, yes. But more than that, they built entire inner architectures of memory. The Ars Memoriae. Palaces of rooms held in the mind so that one person could carry a cathedral of knowledge inside the skull. They knew what the modern world has forgotten, that depth is not stored, depth is grown. It takes years, it takes silence. It cannot be downloaded, only tended. It did not stop there. Each age built a faster way to keep knowledge outside the body. The manuscript, the printing press around 1440, the newspaper, the screen, and now the feed, engineered deliberately to hold no one's attention for longer than a breath. Every step externalized a little more of what the old depth keepers had carried within. Every step rewarded the surface and quietly retired the deep. The world did not become shallower by accident. It was built that way, one convenience at a time. So this is the long story of the surface winning. 3,000 years of a civilization learning to hold less and less inside itself. And through all of it, a thin line of people kept refusing to shallow out. The ones who still needed to know things in the body, the ones who could not skim, the ones who felt, even as children, strangely old, as though they had been issued the wrong century. You recognize this? Not as history, as autobiography. Because the feeling has a name, and the name is older than your discomfort with it. What you are is not a personality quirk. What you are is the seer. And the seer is not first of all the one who predicts. The seer is the one who perceives in depth, who reads the pattern under the surface, who runs on deep time while the world runs on the next 10 seconds. I have watched this pattern for a long time. It always tells the same story. A child who seemed to arrive already ancient, who felt the weight of things others walked straight past, who was told, gently or otherwise, to lighten up, to keep up, to stop being so intense, so serious, so much. That child was not broken. That child was running the old operating system in a world that had quietly switched to a new one. This is the part the long record makes undeniable. The Depth Keeper has been displaced again and again, and never once erased. Rome hunted the Druids, and could not kill the capacity that made them. The press did not delete the deep reader. The feed has not deleted you. Every acceleration of the surface has tried to render your kind unnecessary. And every time the lineage went underground and surfaced again, in the few who still could not skim, who still had to go all the way down, you are not the last of them. You are how they continue. You are how the deep memory keeps finding a body to live in. Let me anchor this so it is not mistaken for mysticism. In Jungian terms, you are most likely nidominant, introverted intuition, a mind built to process beneath the surface, to read pattern and depth and long arcs of time rather than the bright, fast signal on top. Jung called the shared structures we inherit across cultures the collective unconscious. The seer is not a spell. The seer is a description of a cognition tuned for depth, born into an age engineered for the surface. That mismatch is the whole feeling. That is why you feel ancient. You are not out of date. You are out of phase. But the inheritance is never only a gift. The Depth Keepers paid, and so do you. To carry deep time in a shallow age is to be perpetually a little too slow for the room and a little too deep for the conversation. It is to grieve a culture most people have not noticed as gone. The shadow of the seer is to mistake that grief for superiority, to let the depth curdle into contempt, to withdraw and call the withdrawal wisdom. The wound inside the gift is loneliness. The ancient ones were lonely too. Being a vessel for what others have stopped carrying has always been a solitary post. So what do you do with an inheritance like this? Not fix it. You were never the problem. The shallowing world is not a verdict on your depth. It is the tide the Depth Keepers have always stood against. The work is not to become faster or flatter or more palatable. The work is to stop apologizing for the century you were built for. I want you to sit with this. You do not feel ancient because something has gone wrong with you. You feel ancient because something is right with you, and rare, and old, and needed more now than it has been in a long time. A world this shallow does not need more skimmers. It needs the few who still know how to go down. Your task is to tend that depth, to grow it the slow way, the only way it grows, and to stop offering it to rooms that were never going to receive it. You are not a straggler from a better age. You are a keeper holding the line the way your kind always have. If this has landed somewhere it needed to land, then you may already know what comes next. There are 7 Sigma INFJ archetypes, and each one carries a different gift, a different burden, a different mythic responsibility. The link in the description will take you to a free assessment that reveals yours. It takes about 3 minutes. The answer tends to land harder than people expect. And if you want to keep walking these threads with me into the deeper psychology of the Sigma INFJ, into the archetypes the world has forgotten how to name, subscribe. There are far older and stranger things still to uncover. Until next time, find your power, know your myth,